Mahala Monday, it is. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dougal. Yes, Rhoda.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mahala Monday. Let's start our week off with a good spirit and with good information.
Oh, yeah. Now, super exciting to be with you this morning. You know what? Let me just say, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this. We're really looking forward to it. And what makes it extra special, let me just put this off the bat there, is that you are involved with the show. So please, we welcome your comments and questions at Nickay Productions, of course, YouTube, Facebook. You'll find the details at the bottom of your screen, but you've got to be part of this show because it's absolutely brilliant. It is the 6th of September, isn't it?
That is right, Dougal. It's 6th of September. We're basically going into we're in our spring now. We're going into our summer. And you know what? We're here to bring some good vibes and put you in a good spirit, starting spring off with a very good heart and lots of information.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking you early September is because we have just left Women's Month behind us.
Yeah.
And that is August, as we know. And we've maintained for the longest time, it's not just the calendar duration of Women's Month, but everything that we discuss and, of course, that we reflect on, and it is so important to us as a society, it should really be an ongoing 24/7, 365.
That is so true, Dougal. It needs to be highlighted every single day. So women, at the end of the day, having to look at when that march happened back in the day, this is there was activists that basically said women has a right as well. We need to be heard. We need to make sure that for the future generations, everything needed to be good. So it needs to happen every single day. Men need to respect our women out there. And Dougal, I have to honestly give you a bit of praise here as well.
I like this.
You always highlight that. And whenever we have discussions off air as well, you know, with the director and everybody else, you guys are always activists for women, and I'm very proud of that because there's very few men that actually does this. So hats off to you guys. You know, I'm very proud of you.
I appreciate what you're saying, but you know what? It is really something that should be ongoing. It shouldn't just be, and I don't want to even say marginalized just to one day where everybody is sort of consciously aware about it. It's part of our fiber, so it should be every day. Now, with that all being said, and you touched on it now, this is what the show is about. We get you the information, we get you involved, we raise topics that is very, very important discussion points wherever you are, in your work, in your home, and of course when you have your self-reflection time. This is super important. But what it also does here for you on Mahala Monday, we introduce you to extraordinary people. Now, if ever we've had a gem, if ever we had a star, if ever we had a person which you can simply just ascribe as amazement. I mean, let's be honest now. When we introduce this person, velvet robes will pass, champagne will pour down. This is really the level of guest that we have for you because it's Mahala Monday. And let me go straight into the point. I want to remind you, it's interactive. At Nickay Productions, you get involved with us. Now, our guest today, super phenomenal person. Not only is she an activist for people and women with disabilities, also a writer, TV presenter, activist. She's involved in so much. If we really go down her CV, we'll be here till tomorrow.
Definitely.
It is that of a serious note. But ladies and gentlemen, this is definitely going to be a brilliant discussion. So thank you very much for joining us. And that then takes us to Tarryn Thomlinson, joining us on Mahala Monday. So many topics we've got to talk about. Tarryn, firstly, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Mahala Monday. Here you are. How's it going?
Yay! Good. I'm so excited to be on this Monday morning to have this conversation with you. So thank you so much for having me.
No, the biggest pleasure is, biggest pleasure is having you. Yeah, thank you so much for making time with us. And do you know what? Rhoda and I were just talking. We were just touching base on some of the things we would like to bring across today. And I mean, we know how involved you are. We know all the things that you've done because I mean you've written things, brilliant articles. I mean, you really seasoned, amazing TV presenter, activist. You've done so much. Life coach, public speaker. Like I said, that list really goes on. But there's a lot of people that might be watching this and they go, who exactly is Tarryn Thomlinson? Just give us the backstory on Tarryn Thomlinson.
Yes. Okay. So as you said, I'm very driven by my social commitment to South Africa and the love of my country. And I think that started many years ago when I first saw Madiba, speaking at our 1994 elections in Pettyville Primary in Lotus River. And it's just like listening to him, I was like, I don't know what I was going to do when I grew up, but I knew that, I wanted to make a difference. And then at the age of 19, end of 18, going on 19, I got rheumatoid arthritis. Very suddenly, I was just getting out of the bed to actually go clubbing. My knee felt like it jumped out of socket. And then a few weeks later, it was the other knee, and then all of my joints. And before long, I was bedridden for a long period of time. And, I then needed to use a wheelchair because even the crutches became too difficult because of the arthritis in my fingers and in my elbows and in my shoulders. It was the most excruciating pain that anybody could ever go through, and a period of my life which was excruciatingly painful. But I think that from that, came this deep need to want to change myself and really understand the power of the mind and the effect that it has over our physiology, but also over the life that we create. And I realized also that, a lot of our illnesses comes from our ill emotional or dis-ease, within our emotional state. And so really looking to say, for myself, what can I do to improve myself? And then finding that information, I did something crazy. I decided that I was going to set a goal for myself so big. I was going to go and live in Italy for longer than a year, and I was going to live in absolute luxury, despite being a wheelchair user. I learned how to so focus my mind and my thoughts, and without any money, within 1 year, I was living in Italy, making headline news. I went there with a Nobel Prize winner who discovered HIV, which was a complete random occurrence of meeting.
Yeah.
And then after I stayed there for 2 years, I had 2 operations. I had a fantastic life over there, and I decided I want to come back to South Africa to teach kids how to harness this power, because for me, poverty comes from and is maintained by impoverished mindsets, so we need to change our mindsets before we can actually change our results. And so kids, the involvement with kids was really my first love, and I founded the Bambini Dream Foundation with an Italian composer, and that has been since 2013. We officially, formulated the foundation, and then, it wasn't long before going out and really finding that as a person living with a disability, it was so difficult for me to access things, access even transportation to go to the hospital in South Africa, because that was prior to Uber. If your family doesn't have a car, there really isn't services that's really available for persons with disabilities to make them feel that we can be in society in a holistic way. And so from that, it spurred on, also to my activism for persons with disabilities, to really say, come on guys, we've got to change. We've got to change the way we do things.
Just hitting on that, listening to you now, obviously being the age you were at, it was obviously extremely frustrating and having to deal with it, like you said, a mental challenge for you at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because when you're 19 years old, you're watching all of your friends, and they're starting their lives, they're starting their careers, they're going to study, they're getting married and having kids. And I was so excited to finally be able to go out and start my own life. And then you feel like you're reduced now to childhood, where I was fiercely independent, and now I had to learn how to be wholly dependent on other people. And it's a very, very hard thing to go through as a young person. Very frustrating. It can be very dark as well if you allow yourself to go down that path.
The one thing that comes across there, as you say, it is, I can't even begin to imagine the challenges and the difficulty surrounding, and especially that as an adolescent, when your life is really turned upside down as it is. But looking then at available resources, also infrastructure, just the general setting in order to facilitate a person with disability, I'm assuming here, is very, very limited, and it is so challenging. But the one thing that comes across here is that you said it, is that mindset. You sounded very, very positive going through all these things, because the one thing led to the next, and then you had goals like going to Italy and doing all of that. So, I mean, that is an extraordinary human accomplishment, and especially, like you said, the power of the mind. How did you get yourself to be in there where you are in a dark space, to get yourself to go, listen, I can do this?
Yeah, I think that for me internally, I'd always been a spiritual person, right? Which has always led to a lot of searching. And so even from a young age, in a teenage, I also had a very difficult childhood. And I think that when you grow up with a difficult childhood and a lot of challenges around you, you have more of that need to search for reason and for meaning. And for me, that led me onto that path of reading a lot of self-help books, a lot of books, that showed that actually, you can get out of your situation and you can get out of your circumstances. And so where I didn't have people around me that were very encouraging, I mean, my family, of course, they did the best that they can. And I think they also people need to deal, with their own emotions and trying to now see how they're going to now navigate this situation. And so I found that books were my go-to, because I needed, when you are so young and the doctors tell you there's no hope for you other than you're going to have to, spend your life going through hospital procedures and operations. You kind of like, for me, it was like, no, that can't be it. And so that was that searching from the spiritual side, but then not just from a spiritual side, also from an intellectual side of trying to really put together how all of this fits. So I'd say that for me, it was thanks to reading just like really good books that got me through that time.
Yeah. I think one of the things I'm wanting to bring as well, because obviously now at this age, at this stage, you educated, you're highly educated in that, and then having to go to work. The challenge obviously first being a woman and then being disabled. Just wanting to highlight that, because I'm a major woman activist and I believe in woman empowerment. What was the frustration as a woman, and then on top of that being disabled as well?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, as a woman, my first, one of my first as a teenage woman was like, oh God, it was hard enough for me to find a boyfriend. How am I going to find a man now?
Good one.
From a purely vanity teenage perspective.
Oh, shame, man.
But then, luckily I realized men love a damsel in distress. But jokes aside, it was a major adjustment. And then for work-wise, I mean, I realized quick on that I'd studied, so I had to leave school because I couldn't go up and down the steps. So I had to finish my matric via correspondence, and then I studied just a diploma in marketing. But I quickly realized that, it getting me to a job that required transport from where I was staying, in the southern suburbs, was just so difficult. And then getting like places that's got adequate toilets, because this is the thing, you can go into an office building, someone can get you in by the door, but you don't want to be dependent there on your co-workers to have to open and, close bathroom doors and stuff like that. You need to be independent, right? And so it was from there actually that I started to just realize that I started working from home. So funny enough, it was at that stage after I had finished studying that I decided that I wanted to go and live in Italy. So there was a part that I wasn't working, and when I lived there, I didn't work. But when I came back, it was then that I started doing online work. And, so I've been preparing for COVID-19 for a while now. what it's like to work from home. But really, as a person with a disability, your options are so limited, in terms of just getting into the workforce, that you're forced, to be innovative.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what, Tarryn, you touch on it, and I want everybody just to put them in that perspective. Just imagine, you said there, if you go into an office building, you're at your work, you're all of a sudden dependent on co-workers, because now you want to reach something from a cupboard, somebody's got to assist you. You want to get something from your bottom drawer at your desk, somebody's got to assist you. Go to open a door, and you become dependent, and it is that mind shift to people, to able-bodied people, that we need to understand.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think that is where your activism hits really to the core. It is something for us to understand. Because if you're not in the situation, these are things that you are completely blocked to. But I want to go quickly to a question that we got in from a viewer on Facebook, so thank you for that, because it touched on what you have just mentioned. And I just quickly want to do this. And it came from Jabbar Kasim Mohammed. So Jabbar, thank you very much for this. He says, hello, Tarryn. Such an inspired lady you are. What advice can you give to young girls who are disabled to accept their identity, that they need to think positive and strive to achieve their goals just like you did? And that touches on what we have just spoken about. What advice is there that you could give to another 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, 10-year-old, and even somebody who's 45?
Yeah, and I think that for me, the key part was, as we mentioned earlier, was to get out of that mindset. Okay, so firstly, the mindset of seeing myself now as someone that's defected, right? Incapable. The mindset of being afraid to put myself out there. Because there was a lot of that fear there, because you don't know how you are accepted, because people are not generally accepting with persons with disabilities. People have their own, discriminations. But it's really about saying, okay, I myself need to look at my core values and what I think is important in life. So, for example, if a fear was that there are people that wouldn't be accepting of me, or that wouldn't be, treat me like a person, just like anybody else. The fear would be, okay, I'm not going to maybe make friends, but then the thought would come to me afterwards, but actually, I only want to be friends with open-minded people. And I believe that there are people like that in this world, and I'm going to find them, and I'm going to stick with them. So it's really about, also, you need to look at your beliefs. If you believe, I think it was Einstein that said that the greatest decision that you'll ever make is whether you believe that you live in a hostile or friendly universe. If you believe that you live in a hostile universe with hostility all around you and people that don't care, you're going to retract, and you're going to stay, within yourself and not be afraid to go out. But if you believe that, there are nice people out there, there are people that are accepting, there are companies that want to invite people, and that when we accept ourselves and say unashamedly, this is who I am, and when we look at our own core values and say, well, what do I believe in? Who do I want to surround myself with, and the kind of people that I want to surround myself with? Once you get that shift right within yourself, it becomes so much easier to just step out there, because you've got your support system. And you really have to create a support system. I know that, a lot of the friends that I was with when I was able-bodied were not the support system that I could have as a person with a disability. Not because there's anything wrong with them, but just because they have their own limitations, and maybe also it was now coming to deal with, who is this Tarryn? This new Tarryn that we have to. So it's all about an internal shift.
So just on that, I just want to hit on that as well, because obviously having that internal shift, and this is where I want to speak to the parents as well, and I think you can probably also motivate this on having to say to the parents, as much as obviously it's a challenge for you, it's a challenge for the parents as well, and not to make you not an able person, because it's not about your disability, it's making you an able person to be able to go into the world and fend for yourself. And I think this also stems from the parents, because I think many times they themselves disable the kids mentally by cushioning them and pampering them and protecting them. What have you got? What do you have to say?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Rhoda. I think that you are spot on, because I mean that also perpetuates that lie, that idea that someone is incapable, because your parents love you and they want to protect you, and they see the harshness of the world and they don't want you to go through, that, and maybe they've got their own perceived ideas about disability. As you said, it's so vital. One of the, for parents to not see their child as limited, but to know that given the right tools under a set of circumstances, that child can really blossom. I'm a part of my education has been that even though I'm an only child, both of my parents did not pamper me at all. And so, one of my dad's key things that he drilled into my head since young was that there's no such a word as can't.
Yes.
He would tell me you can do anything if you learn how to do it. There's no such, so I was not allowed to say the word can't. And so that was, I think, obviously also affected the way that I confront the challenges that comes. And I had a mother that, bless her, I love my mother to a point, but my mom was not going to hand anything to me on a silver platter. So even if something was difficult for me to get, she was like, go and get it, make yourself coffee or whatever the case may be.
Make it work.
So yeah, it was that. And then on the other side, I had my gran and my aunt that loved cushioning, and my gran said at one stage, because I was reliant at a stage on the government grant, which is a joke, for persons with disabilities. And they didn't recognize arthritis as a permanent disability. Wow. So I had to go every 6 months to the hospital, fill out papers, take it to the office, bring it back. And my gran said, to hell with that, you don't need the money. We'll help you, like we'll support you in this time. But I also knew that they were very also fearful and very happy to just have me kind of there, and so, it really, really, that's so important for the family structure to not see the person as a burden in the family. But to simply see how do we, and families are the toughest of the lot in terms of actually making changes. I remember many times, like without thinking, I'd have family members come over, they'd see me there at my grand's place and they'd be like, oh, but we're just going to go to the shopping center, to do something, and then we're going to Spurk and we bring you a burger. And it's like, but why can't I go with? Because the thought of, now we must take the wheelchair and we must put it in the car and we must do this and we must do that. So inadvertently, through their own we must go and get this done, or whatever the case may be, you as a family member get left feeling excluded from the family, right? Because you're too much of a burden. And so that needs to change within family structures, to say that the child has a challenge that they didn't ask for, and they shouldn't be penalized for it, for the rest of their life. So what can we change? Can we build a ramp? Get the community involved. It takes a couple of pieces of planks of wood. Let's build a ramp. Let's do this, and let's really foster the ability.
I actually, you touch on something that I actually wanted to ask you, and I want to do that. But quickly, I also just want to say thank you again to Jabbar for that question, who says he's complimenting you on the way you answered it. But we also have something from Hubert Paulser on YouTube, who says, great show, guys. Tarryn, I love what you're saying. What you seem to be difficult now is likely to be easier later once you've kind of achieved it. And that is what he says. When you look back at it, it looks like, oh, you've done it. Also, he goes on to say, Robert Hensel once said, determination is not a disability. And that is sort of cementing what you have just said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to be determined, and it's your attitude, really. And so if someone's got a good attitude and they're determined, and there are so many persons with disabilities just like, waiting or looking for that opportunities. And, my key message to them would also be, don't wait. Go and create it. As far in as you are possible, because once you actually decide, no, this is, I'm not going to live my life like this. I'm actually going to expand. Then the universe will bring you the right people and the opportunities to help you in that expansion.
Definitely.
And it ties in with what you said earlier. It is like you got to surround yourself with the people, not necessarily that has got that skill set, but definitely somebody that helped to push the story forward. But I want to talk to you about Women's Month specifically, because this is also based on the article that you wrote. But before I even ask you that, I want to say this, because it is something you just mentioned, that structural exclusion for people with disability. And when I speak of structural exclusion, I speak to the fact that when we sometimes refer to privilege, when we refer to structural racism. Now, this is something, as we as people of color, we see it. We know it's there. At times we turn a blind eye, times we go with it head on. Now, for a person with disability and a person of color, of course, and you've touched on it, where the able-bodied people are not even wired that way to think of the challenges that you said. You've mentioned it twice now. You said in your working environment, how it is. How a big thing is that? I mean, that it happens every day. And the reason I'm asking you that, because I want to lead into Women's Month. Now we've got Women's Month. We just do the bit early that first weekend where we actually have the Women's Day. You look at TV shows, there's not a man in sight, all of this. It's just for that one day. We talk women rights. And let's be clear, it's not Mother's Day. It's not Mother's Day. It's not, you don't buy presents. It's a day where we reflect the contribution women has positively made to society, past, present, and future, and how we're doing things. And this is what it's about. Now we look at people with disabilities, women with disabilities, and they haven't even made the queue from where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
How do we address the structural things?
Yeah, so that structural thing that you're talking about is exactly the same as persons with disabilities experience the same, structural exclusion as in the racism context, and looking at Women's Day, for example, on a whole, we can look at this month, as you said. Unfortunately, as I wrote about in the article, the main message of the day has been missed, where we are now, very focused on high teas and pamper vouchers and spoil the woman in your life, etc., when that is not what the day was about. It is about women coming together to activate, as you said, in order to bring about a change. And part of that is to take and to remove the structural barriers, because women with disabilities and women with disabilities of color are the most marginalized group of people in the world. And so now we look within the women's rights movement and we can say, but even we as women are, and the creators of events are excluding, other women who are even less fortunate within our group. So we as women, before we look to men and point the finger and say, you guys have to open up, you guys have to do X, Y, and Z, we need to look at our own selves and say, well, me as a woman, what am I doing to uplift other women who have less than me, who are more marginalized? How am I activating to make that change before I look to someone else to say, you activate for me? Because for me, that's already coming from a place of disempowerment. When you believe that someone else needs to empower you.
Yeah, and that is probably where that is where it becomes difficult, because I believe, and I'm wired this way. You know what I mean? I'm just wired that way, and I say this as a male, or somewhat, but I believe as a decent male. I say it from that perspective, that it is really up to me to make sure that situation is there, because as far as I'm concerned, none of us can perpetuate any sort of cycles in a negative way. So from an able-bodied male perspective, this is something we should be on the forefront. I understand exactly what you're saying when you're saying we've got to be aware of it. But I suppose it's sometimes bringing it across, because a lot of times able-bodied people they're not even aware.
No, absolutely. And even with we I have this conversation often with friends of mine or people that I meet that have now, someone within their family that's recently become disabled. I've recently just had a friend who had a stroke. I mean, she's in her 40s only.
Wow.
And life can change just like that. But until you actually have experience or yourself or someone close to you, you aren't really aware that a step of that much can be a hindrance to someone, and so you just think, but you just go in over there. No, I don't remember. There's not a lot of steps. So people will tell me when I ask if it's accessible, they'll say, yeah, it's only one step.
Oh my
and I'm
word.
like, okay, it's
Yes.
not going to work.
Here's 10 minutes.
Just listening to that, and I mean, this is something we had spoken off air as well. The challenge is exactly that step that you're talking about. And we know we had this conversation where you actually go out to some of these hotels and actually look at what they actually cater for, if they do cater for disabled. Because just thinking about the step now, I mean, and this is why we're doing the show, is to highlight exactly that little step that can actually be such a challenge for somebody that's not able to climb that step or roll over that step. So so how are you doing this at the moment?
Yes, so I found that when I came back from living in Italy, and I had the privilege there of living in a place that was like a hotel that had great accessibility features, and so I really got to understand the hotel behind the scenes of how it's run and stuff. And when I came to South Africa, I would go out and kaya with friends at hotels because they were more accessible. You have a doorman at the door. Valet parking, so I would go there. So as a person with a disability, this is amazing because now you can get someone to help you with your wheelchair, whatever, out of the car. They generally have lifts and services for travelers, and so it's easy to go there. But however, what I noticed going around is that they weren't doing it properly. So small things. You come into an accessible bathroom, and then the mirror has been the height of someone that is standing.
True.
So I'm like there with my lipstick on the tap, looking at the tap.
Thought of that one. Oh my word! What a challenge!
And silly. Or you go to the room, and then the bed is like this high. And so if you are in a wheelchair, and this is an accessible room, so you're in a wheelchair, how are you supposed to transfer? But the assumption there again is that you're traveling with someone. You see, environments are not built to fully enable people to be independent.
Wow.
Wow. They're built with the assumption. That's why you can get ramps that are like this. Even an able-bodied person would not be able to push themselves up a ramp like that.
Exactly.
Alone. So it's created to still, even though it's supposed to be for your independence, it's created with the idea that someone with a disability must travel with someone else, or will be traveling, or doesn't need to look in the mirror. Right? Or doesn't, and like silly things that then renders a space, not accessible. And so going around and looking at this, I was like, no, man, come on, we have to do better than this. Bathrooms as well, that says that they are accessible, but then like there's a step going up to the bathroom and it's got a very accessible sign there. I'm like, and I understand that some places just try and do the best that they can with what they have. But this is where our government needs to come in space in terms of creating, the same way like we would get subsidized for JoJo tanks or for, solar heating panels. Companies should be subsidized to make those changes for persons with disabilities.
But there's so many things, because as you're saying that now, like you said, there's the assumption that if you're traveling and you're going to a hotel, that you have a chaperone, somebody is with you to sort of look after you. But this is exactly that structural thing that we're talking about. It's just the way doors are opening, in and out. I mean, why can't doors just slide? Why can't it just be that simple and that easy? And it is getting us to that sort of point. And the sad thing is, we're in 2021. We're not in 1905.
Yes.
We're in 2021.
Exactly.
Why is it still like this?
It's crazy. And who likes stairs? I mean, come on, Dougal.
Precisely,
I
yes.
mean, who loves trekking upstairs?
Well, normally,
Unless you're on a stepper.
normally when I always opt for the stairs, and it's not got to do with claustrophobia or anything like that, but I always look at it as an escapism because I just leave,
I think, you know what,
run
Tarryn?
away from my party.
You know, just listening to you now as well, it's up to us as people as well, because, you know, I'm an able body, but I get so mad, and when I go to the shopping malls and that, and the disabled bay gets taken by an able body, I want to flatten all those tires, because I get extremely emotional about that. I get real mad. It's up to us as humans to make that change, because I think humans at the end of the day are just selfish at the end of the day on just looking at themselves and being privileged and forgetting exactly these challenges that, you know, the able bodies are facing.
Yeah.
Oh, I get mad.
And you know what, on that, your example is just going to open, because everybody is going to say that. But may I just say, if you are disabled, somebody else is there who isn't, they don't have the disc, nothing, park them in. Park them in. I tell you, park them in. Like really, get them clamped, parked in, and don't even come back to your car. Go to Uber,
selfish,
come
man.
back Wednesday. Yeah. No, seriously, it's...
I'm going to do that.
Well, please don't do that. Let's be good citizens. But this is the point. This is what we're talking about, because that is the structural mindset.
That's a structural mindset.
That is the structural mind. We're unawares of it. We're like, because you stop at the shop, just like you say, the park. I'm like, it's just quick, just
quick.
No, now, just run in for a break. No, come on. There's no quick.
There's no quick, and it's so uncaring. As you said, it's about everybody putting their own needs above everybody else's. I mean, you've got 2 parking bays that someone with a disability can use out of a lot of 50 parking bays. I mean, seriously, you know, just a little bit of forethought.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, this is the thing, and this is what I highlighted in the article as well. Even though it's from a selfish point that we create a society like this, I call it like selfishly stupid.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when we make sure, as I said, you know, that these services are in place. So you think about, there you are, an able-bodied person, and you have your husband, and you just, you know, living life merrily, and you have a kid that's disabled. Now all of a sudden you found, oh my gosh, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that. So, or you yourself find yourself in a situation. And this is the thing, like, we live in such a bubble in which we think nothing bad can happen to me.
Yeah.
You know, so therefore I don't have to worry about, you know, anything else.
Yeah.
But it can happen.
Oh, yeah.
And when it does, you're going to wish that, you know, someone left that parking bay open there in front for you.
Oh, yeah.
And so by doing these services, we are actually securing our own, you know, future well-being, because it can happen to anybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
So the fact that we are, you know, living like it's only touching a group of people and it has no way of touching me is, for me, it's just crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
It certainly is. Tarryn, there's a lot of things we want to talk about you quickly, and unfortunately, you know, time and, you know, time and all that. But there's one thing that I want to just mention to you quickly as well. So, I mean, you TV presenter, and just going back to this hotels thing. So you go around, you sort of evaluate them, right? That is what you do.
Yeah, so I consult, exactly.
Oh,
so I
brilliant.
consult, I audit, and then I consult with them to show them how they can scale their services and put that mirror, where to hang the mirror.
Yeah. May I suggest, expand this from hotels and guest houses, but just to shopping malls, to everywhere, schools, just go boss. And you know what? All of us just drive past the building and just go in and say, listen, I'm just here to check. Let's just do that, because this is how we get the topic going. This is how you raise the awareness, because all the stuff you've said, I can guarantee you, because I'm oblivious to all of it. I'm not the only one then, I would assume. But you are a TV presenter as well. So you got this program on a national television, SABC2, called Activated, which happens on a Saturday. And this is inspirational because you touch on so much in this program.
Absolutely. It's an amazing program. I mean, the researchers that we got are really disability right activists within South Africa that are just amazing. And so they put together the show. It's called Activated. And we're looking at changing the narrative of disability within South Africa to change the mental, prejudices that people have. We also show stuff like innovation. So, new technologies that's out, assistive devices for persons with disabilities. We look into the arts. I don't know if you know Dr. Marlene Leroux of the Artscape. We work quite well with Dr. Marlene. Yes, so she's a big disability right activist. And so with, we will have guests like Marlene and we'll speak about, from the arts perspective. So it is a wealth of information that people can go to understand their rights. Firstly, to understand what is happening in South Africa for persons with disabilities, to find out where they can get information and resources. And so that's Activated. It's on 1 o'clock. The first season had 26 episodes. So it's been running quite a while now.
Yeah. Now, awesome. Thanks, because we wanted to touch on that. And you know what? Because it is absolutely fabulous. And it is one of those where there's no limitations, there's no restrictions. And this is really the essence of your show, which really embodies your personality,
Yes,
isn't it? With no restrictions
no
and all that.
No restrictions at all.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put on something on the screen quickly. Just a quick one, because this fascinated the living daylights out of me. Could we get that photo up, please? Look at that.
Talk about no restrictions.
Look at that. I mean, come on, people. Kilimanjaro.
Mount Kilimanjaro.
There's Tarryn.
There she sits.
With her flag.
Oh, yeah. She did
There's a tent behind you. Tell people exactly what are you doing there? What is this? What happened there? What's happening there?
And let me just say, as the first woman of color with a disability to ever climb Kilimanjaro.
Wow. Tarryn, whoa. Go back. Say it again.
Yeah.
Say it again.
To get to the top.
Say it again.
The first woman of color to ever get to base camp Kilimanjaro with my wheelchair. So, I'm super proud of that.
I mean...
But,
Well done.
Wow.
Do you know what?
Wow.
I shouldn't have asked you to say it again because you're making me teary-eyed here. I make many mistakes, but this was a big mistake. Wow.
Don't cry this morning. But,
wow.
Yeah, so this happened last year in February.
Wow.
There was a group called Guts to Glory, and so basically the founder, she's up in Switzerland, who I know, South African woman, and she really gets athletes with disabilities, and they had gone up before Kilimanjaro, but never with wheelchairs, only with amputees. And she said, "Come on, Tarryn, you got to join us." And initially I was like, "What the hell? I hate the cold. What am I going to be doing on a mountain? Like, please put me by a pool with a martini or something and I'll be happy." But I mean, what am I going to be doing in the cold? So then I for 2 years, I was like, nope, not going to do it. And then I started doing the auditing. And I founded the company Livable. And it was just like, this is an amazing way to be able to, to be able to advocate and to be able to highlight that it truly is your attitude that determines your altitude. And so we went up at the end of February last year, and firstly the Kilimanjaro, big race that they do there, and then we trek. But whoa, okay, so I got to the top. I had the most amazing help from four guides who basically lifted and carried me, because I promise you there are rocks and boulders. Wow. There's no smooth, smooth trail. Wow. 5 days on the mountain in excruciating cold. I've never felt, physical, needing to push through such physicality. Also tiredness on the body, because of course you're bouncing up the rocks and you're hitting stuff, and but I mean, for me, it was just like I take my hats off to my guides, because they were the ones that got me safely to the top. They were absolutely amazing. And it was the most difficult thing I've ever done. I'd never do it again. But the feeling, never.
Listen. Ow. Wow.
Hats off to you for doing that.
I'm really
But the feeling of
speechless.
sitting there, that morning when I sat there, it was such a feeling of exhilaration. First, because I was just so thankful to God for bringing me up safely, because people die on that mountain.
Oh, yes.
Able-bodied people die,
So true.
and so the fact that I got there was just amazing. And then also just to know that I was seeing with my natural eyes what very, very few people will
Yeah.
see in their lifetime.
yes.
Sure.
Also because of all the snow that's disappearing, so also because of climate change
Yeah.
and stuff like
Climate
that.
change, yeah.
And just generally because it's not very few people actually go.
Wow.
And so that was a base camp. We had like five kilometers to go to the first peak,
Yeah.
right? That's where you were the first summit. And then there was another 10 to get to the top. But I actually decided to stop at base camp because my heart was just palpitating far too much. And so for health reasons, I decided to stay back, and I'm glad because everybody else that went up had to turn around halfway and come back because the blizzard was so bad that no one could go up any further.
Okay.
What a story.
What a
And
story.
you know what? I mean, and that image of you there is really what it's about. And I want everybody to look at that. If you don't mind me saying this, that your attitude will determine your altitude.
Oh,
This is,
yeah.
I'm quoting you directly now. Wow, Tarryn Thomlinson.
Well done.
And we're going to have to do a whole episode of all of that. Just you, mountain snow, guide, wheelchair. That's like a series of episodes right there.
Definitely.
Ah, man. I you know what? Honestly, this is, looking at that, this is super, super emotional. It really is. That's all I can
Thank you.
say. So with all of that, I mean,
Thank you.
it is very easy to understand. I mean, you think big. You're out of the box. We all know that. That is why you do the life coach. And we want to tell people as well that they can email you. Of course, it's easy to get in touch with you. Also, you activated Facebook details, easy, which we're gonna do as well, and then of course all the work that you do. But before we do all of that, I just want to go back to a question, and and then wrap up. And this is from Jabbar, and it kind of sums up our last question as well. And once again, Jabbar, thank you so much, Jabbar Kasim Muhammad, who said, "Wonderful, Tarryn, you're absolutely brilliant." He compliments you all the way. He goes, "What's next?" And let me just add that, because what is next, man? You've ticked all the boxes here.
Well, for me, I'm very much guided, like in the spur of the moment. So I don't have like many, like strict rules, but I need to reach this milestone or whatever the case may be. It's like if a need arises and I can be of service, then I'm there. But I do know that Able to Travel is actually becoming a reality TV show, 13-part series, as I've designed it, of me traveling around South Africa, visiting our best loved destinations, really showing what is available and accessible to persons with disabilities, and working really with our hospitality industry to say that, let's expound upon that rainbow nation. Let's not just make it about color, but let's just, show South Africa as a place that's truly inclusive of all persons. If I get this done, like, even if I just manage to just do a little bit and change a little bit in that area, I'll be happy. But otherwise, for the rest of it, travel, have fun, and do as much good as I can.
Definitely.
Absolutely awesome. Absolutely. It is all I can say. So, Hubert says, normal is just a drier setting, which is why I think of business and government, I think their disability is their inability to see the ability of the disabled. I mean...
Well said, Hubert.
I said I'm emotional. I said
Hubert.
I'm emotional. He come with a statement like that now. That's pushing me cliff. Thank you. I mean, that's it.
Oh,
And,
well done.
All I can say is, Hubert, that is it. That brilliant. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Sure,
What a lovely show.
I am questioned out. So,
There's the detail.
life coach and all of that, Tarryn Thomlinson Coaching, Instagram, that's how you find her. And of course, you can go check her out on Facebook as well. I mean, the life coaching, all of that, find her on that as well. And then, of course, you can email her too, which is tarrynthom@gmail.com. Tarryn, I'm questioned out. Rhoda, do you have any questions?
I'm questioned out. Well, I enjoyed the show.
Thank you.
We got to get you back.
Thank you, and
We
thank
have
you.
to get you back.
Can you come back?
Whenever.
Can you come back? Not once, but like 100 times? Please.
Yeah. Could I sit there next to the two of you?
Yes, then you come sit here with us. How's that?
No, not even
I
next
will
year. I
love
can't
that.
wait that long.
Not that
I can't
long.
wait that long. I can't wait. No, I can't wait a whole
We need
year.
you here next to us.
A year from now, you must have been here like 20 times or something. No, I can't wait a year. Yeah.
Tarryn
I'd
Thomlinson.
love to. And thank you so much for the show that you do, because it's so vital and it's so important that, you know, we really look at making these changes and bring across things that, you know, aren't often spoke about. So your show is so valuable. Thank you so much
No,
for having me.
you.
Thank you for your time. We take our
yeah.
cue from you.
From you.
And please keep doing what you're doing, because everything you do is just making the whole world a better place. And thank you for that, Tarryn. Thank you very much. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is Tarryn Thomlinson,
Likewise.
everybody. Rhoda? Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said that this is emotional. And let's put it in perspective. In a heartbeat, everything changed. You know, like she said, she was adolescent, 18, 19 years old. All of a sudden, everything changes. And then all of that happens so quickly. You know, how are you equipped on that? You had your own life vision. And then it becomes a mental thing.
And you know what I like about the fact that she said, you know what, we all live in our little bubbles.
Yeah.
And it can happen to anybody. Look at her at
Exactly.
the age of 19, you know? It could
Who
happen to you
would have
tomorrow.
thought?
Who would have thought?
Here's the biggest thing.
So true.
That she never saw any of it as a limitation.
There we go.
She saw it as, this is how I'm going to better myself. But in doing that, because in the belief that she's got, we're in the service of others, which is really got to be number one of your moral values list anyway. She's changed things. Then now she's got the show on SABC called Activated. Brilliant discussions. Not only that, all the work that she does.
SABC
She's a
too.
life coach.
Oh, yeah.
And who would you rather want to hear the story from?
Yeah.
I ask you.
She's a writer, a public speaker. I mean, wow.
It is absolutely fantastic. So you got to go check out. We had the details on the screen there. You got to go check out all the things. And she's absolutely amazing. All we can say is just thank you very much. And it is quite an emotional show. And it is important for us to understand that structural changes. We got to understand that the thing that you want, become that today. If it's not there, become it today. Start the conversation. Start it with Rhoda. Start it with me. Start it with your dog if there's nobody to talk to. But get your mind thinking around where you want to go to. You can't wait for other people to do it anymore. If you're waiting for other people to do it, it's too late.
Too late.
It's too late. Thank you, Tarryn Thomlinson. That's all I can say.
That's all we can say.
I'm done.
Everybody, thank you for joining us this morning. It was fabulous having you all here and all the comments at the end of the day, and have a fabulous week.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.